Sometimes life doesn't fall apart. It just drifts out of rhythm. And you don't notice how you start living in later. Later I'll rest. Later I'll speak up. Later I'll change. But later sounds safe while it quietly steals your years. If you're here, something in you already knows it's time. Not for noise, but for truth. So before we go on, pause, take a breath, and write this in the comments, not for me, but as a quiet contract with yourself. I'm ready to begin today. That's your signature. The moment you write it, you stop waiting, and you start returning to yourself, to balance, to motion. Now let's begin. When I was younger, I used to pass a small watch shop on the corner of Main and Fifth. It was the kind of place you could almost miss if you weren't looking for it. Narrow windows, gold letters fading on the glass, a bell on the door that sounded like a whisper. But every time I walked by, I'd see the same man inside, bent gently over his workbench, a magnifying glass perched in his eye, shoulders relaxed like he had all the time in the world. Around him, clocks ticked softly in a dozen different tempos, like rain made of seconds, like a little orchestra without a conductor, each instrument playing its own small part. One morning, curiosity got the best of me. I stepped inside. The air smelled like metal and polish and something sweet, maybe the oil he used on the gears. The counters gleamed, the glass was clean, and the whole room felt calm, as if the steady ticking kept the air itself in rhythm. The man looked up, smiled, and said, "Be careful where you stand. Every clock in here keeps its own rhythm." He was older, with hands so steady they seemed to calm the very light around them. I asked how he made all those clocks run so precisely. He said, "I don't make them precise. I make them patient." That line confused me for years, until one day, it didn't. He told me that before he adjusted any clock, he would sit quietly and listen to it tick for a full minute. "Everyone drifts a little," he said, "but they all have their reasons: humidity, heat, gravity, time itself. You can't force them to stay perfect. You can only help them find balance again." Then he smiled and added, "Being steady doesn't mean not moving. It means moving with awareness." He said it so gently that I almost missed the weight of it. But the room heard it. The clocks kept ticking, and I swear their rhythm softened. That was decades ago. And somehow his words sound even wiser now, in a century that moves faster than we can think. Everywhere I go, people tell me the same thing: I can't keep up. The world shifts by the hour. Jobs, news, relationships, expectations, all of it moving like sand underfoot. We live in an age where being adaptable is praised, but being still can feel like failure. And yet every human heart, no matter how modern, still longs for steadiness. I once met a woman at a conference in Denver, Jessica. She managed a startup that built software for schools. She was bright, driven, the kind of person who keeps 3 calendars and still runs behind. She said, "Every week something changes. The market, the tools, the rules." I used to think success meant being ahead of it all. Now I just want to stop spinning. I asked her, "When's the last time you sat still long enough to hear your own rhythm?" She laughed. "What do you mean?" So I told her about the watchmaker, how he listened before he adjusted. She said, "Maybe I've been adjusting without listening." That one sentence, half a joke, half a confession, stuck with me. Because that's exactly what so many of us do. We rush to fix, react, adapt, perform, but rarely pause long enough to understand where our rhythm actually lives. We talk about balance as if it's a final state, a perfect equation we can solve once and for all. But balance isn't static. It's a conversation between you and change. The world moves, you move. The trick is to stay in dialogue. A man I once coached, a firefighter named Ray, told me something I'll never forget. He said, "When we enter a burning building, everything inside is chaos. If you panic, you lose. So we move slow, even when everything's fast." Then he smiled. "Calm," he said, "is not the absence of fire. It's the presence of focus." I've thought about that every time life starts rushing around me. You don't fight chaos by being faster. You steady yourself by being conscious. That's what the watchmaker did every morning. He'd open his shop, wind each clock, and then, before touching a single tool, he'd listen. He told me once, "If I adjust too early, I make things worse. Time needs to tell me what it wants." And I often wonder, how many of us try to fix our lives before we've even listened to them? A teacher I know in Boston, Mrs. Alvarez, once told me something that sounded simple but felt profound. "I used to get frustrated with my students," she said. "Every year they seemed more distracted, less patient. Then I realized they live in a faster world than I did. If I can't slow them down, maybe I can slow myself down enough for both of us." So she changed the rhythm of her class. Instead of starting with content, she began with what she called quiet minutes, 60 seconds of stillness before anything else. At first, she said, they hated it. Now, they ask for it. That's the quiet power of steadiness. It's contagious. When you slow your pulse, you help others find theirs. One afternoon, I visited the watchmaker again. He was polishing the gears of a clock that must have been 100 years old. I asked if it still kept good time. He said, "Good enough." Then he smiled. "Perfection doesn't keep time," he said. "Patience does." It took me a long time to understand that. Steadiness isn't stubbornness. It's the art of rebalancing again and again, without bitterness. If you watch a sailor ride a crosswind, or a dancer land from a spin, or a mountain climber edge along a narrow ridge, you'll see the truth right there in their bodies. None of them stay still, but they stay centered. Their balance doesn't come from freezing in place. It comes from feeling every shift and adjusting gently. They keep contact with the ground, the music, the rock, and they listen, moment by moment. That's what the watchmaker did every day with his clocks. That's what we've got to do with our lives. The trouble is, we confuse movement with progress. We scroll, we switch, we sprint, and we call it living. But sometimes the most courageous act is to stop, just for a moment, and take stock. Because when everything changes, reflection becomes rebellion. I met a father who worked in logistics, planes, shipments, deadlines. His whole life ran on urgency. He told me, "I started realizing I was checking emails during dinner. My kids would talk and I'd nod, but I wasn't really there." So he made one small change. Every night after work, he left his phone in another room for 15 minutes. At first, he said, it felt like withdrawal. Now, it feels like home. That's how steadiness begins. Not with massive resolutions, but with micro pauses. If you think of your life as a mechanism, a collection of moving parts, then those small pauses are the oil that keeps the gears from grinding. Without them, even the best system burns out. A friend of mine, an ER nurse, once said, "If I don't take one deep breath between patients, I start treating people like tasks." She smiled sadly. That's when mistakes happen. It's not the world that exhausts us. It's our refusal to rest between beats. The watchmaker understood that. He once told me, "Time doesn't stop, but it breathes." Then he placed a clock to my ear and said, "Listen, between the ticks, there's always a pause." That's where life hides. I've never forgotten it. If you learn to honor that pause, you'll find calm in every storm. So now, when life throws me into motion, flights, deadlines, lists that breed overnight, I'll stop, even for 10 seconds, just to listen to the hum of the room. It's astonishing how quickly that tiny act brings me back to myself. You don't need to control everything. You just need to tune yourself the way the watchmaker tuned his clocks. And in this next part, I want to show you how to separate what's within your control from what isn't. How to build small rituals that act as anchors when the tide rises. And how to notice the natural movements of life that are already carrying you forward, even when you feel still. Because steadiness isn't a wall you build, it's a rhythm you learn to dance to. The next time I visited the watchmaker, he wasn't working. He was sitting by the window, a cup of tea cooling beside him, just listening. Not to the clocks this time, but to the rain. "Something wrong with the clocks?" I asked. He smiled. "No, I'm just giving them a day off." I laughed. "Clocks don't rest." "They do when I clean them," he said. Then he looked up and added softly, "Even time needs maintenance." That line stayed with me for years, because if time itself deserves a breath, so do we. We live in a culture that worships momentum. Keep going, keep building, keep producing. But sometimes the most productive thing you can do is pause, to listen, to reset, to decide what's worth continuing. That's what the first practice is all about, the discipline of where to place your attention. Practice 1. The 3 circles of influence. Take out a piece of paper. Draw 3 circles, one inside another, like ripples in a pond. In the smallest circle, write what you can control directly, your words, your habits, your reactions. The tone you choose, the hour you wake, the way you breathe before you answer. In the next circle, write what you can influence but not command. A team at work, your children's choices, a relationship that needs care. You can show up with patience. You can set better boundaries. You can offer clarity instead of pressure. And in the outer circle, write what you cannot control at all: the economy, the weather, other people's opinions, the traffic on I-5 at 5 p.m. Now sit with that picture. You'll notice something. Most of our stress lives in the outer circle, the one we can't touch. Most of our peace lives in the smallest, the one we often ignore. A man I met in Portland told me he does this exercise every Monday. "It's how I keep my sanity in business," he said. "If a problem falls outside my first 2 circles, I stop trying to solve it. I start focusing on how I show up instead." Then he smiled. "Turns out, when I focus on my tone instead of their behavior, everyone calms down faster. That's how influence grows, not through force, but through focus. When you live by the three circles, you stop being a leaf blown by the wind. You become the tree, flexible, yes, but rooted where it matters. The watchmaker used to say, "I don't fix time, I cooperate with it." That's what these circles teach, to cooperate instead of control. Practice 2. The anchor ritual. The next practice helps you build steadiness into your days, a rhythm you can return to when everything around you changes. Every ship, no matter how advanced, still drops anchor when the waves get rough. We need the same. An anchor ritual is one small, repeatable act you do at the same time each day. Something so consistent, it reminds you that stability still exists. It could be brewing coffee at sunrise, writing one line in a journal before bed, taking a 5-minute walk at lunch without your phone. A woman I know in San Diego calls it her morning reset. She wakes before her kids, lights a candle, and just sits for 2 quiet minutes. No music, no plans, no scrolling. I used to think quiet was a luxury, she told me. Now, it's my power supply. Her husband jokes that it's eerie how calm she is before chaos starts. But that's what anchors do. They hold you steady, while the tide does what tides do. The watchmaker's anchor ritual was simple. Before opening his shop, he wound one old clock by hand. "It reminds me that time still listens to touch," he said. That line stayed with me, because in a digital world, we forget that physical acts, winding, washing, cooking, writing, calm the nervous system faster than any affirmation. Your anchor ritual doesn't need to impress anyone. It only has to be real. A young software engineer told me he started making tea every day at 3 p.m. Same mug, same song, same pause. "I used to call it my burnout break," he said. "Now, it's my sanity break," he laughed. "My coworkers think I'm eccentric. But when everyone's stressed, they end up sitting near my desk. That's how calm spreads, quietly, without announcement." And if you skip your anchor one day, don't turn it into guilt. Anchors don't judge, they wait. Just pick them up again tomorrow. Practice 3. The list of movements. The third practice is different. It's not about control or routine. It's about trust. Learning to notice how life itself keeps moving forward, even when you think you're stuck. At the end of each week, write down 3 places where life moved you, even slightly. Maybe you handled a tough conversation better than before. Maybe an opportunity appeared you didn't expect. Maybe something painful began to make sense. Write them down, because progress is quiet. It rarely shouts. If you don't record it, you'll forget you're growing. A friend in Chicago keeps what he calls his motion log. "When everything feels stagnant," he said, "I read it. It reminds me I've been moving all along, just not in straight lines." He showed me one entry. "Stopped checking my phone before sleep. Slept through the night. Felt human again." Small movement, big shift. The watchmaker once told me, "When a clock runs slow, you don't twist the dial wildly. You adjust it 1 notch. Then you wait. Then you listen." He paused and smiled. "The secret is in the waiting. That's the wisdom behind the list of movements. understanding that life corrects itself in small increments, not revolutions. I sometimes ask audiences to imagine their lives as a set of gears. Some turn fast, some slow. Some only move when others push them. The key isn't to speed up every gear. It's to make sure the system keeps turning, gently, consistently, and with care. A nurse I know in Austin started writing her movements on sticky notes. She posts them on her fridge, bright yellow reminders of quiet victories. Didn't cry after a tough shift. Called my mom back. Walked instead of scrolled. She told me, "I used to think progress had to be visible. Turns out it just needs to be acknowledged." That's the heart of steadiness, recognizing motion, even when it's modest. When you practice these 3 habits, drawing your circles, anchoring your day, and noting your movements, something beautiful starts to shift. Not outside you, inside. You start reacting slower. You breathe deeper. The world's noise fades just enough for you to hear your own rhythm again. The watchmaker once told me, "I don't listen to clocks to make them quiet. I listen so I can hear when they're alive." Maybe that's what we all need. Not to silence life's ticking, but to tune in so we can live with it gracefully. And this is where the story turns, from practice back to the man who taught me to listen. A few months after my last visit, the little shop on Main and 5th closed its doors. The window went dark. The golden letters faded until you could barely read them. For a while, I thought the watchmaker had simply retired. Then one evening, I got a letter, an envelope addressed in handwriting as neat and deliberate as his craft. Inside was a short note. "Moved my bench to the mountains, still listening." No return address, just those 2 words that felt like a prayer. Still listening. Years later, traveling through a small town in Colorado, I found him again. Older, slower, but with the same peaceful smile. He no longer repaired clocks for customers. He repaired them for joy. "Do you miss the shop?" I asked. "The noise, the people?" He shook his head. "No. I still keep time, just differently now." Then he added, "When I stopped chasing precision, I started keeping better time." I laughed. "You mean your clocks?" He smiled. "I mean my life." We sat on his porch that evening, listening to the wind move through the trees. No ticking, no deadlines, just the rhythm of day becoming night. "You know," he said, "when I was younger, I tried to make every clock perfect. I thought my job was to hold time still, but one day I realized time never needed me to control it. It needed me to cooperate with it." He turned and looked at me. "We fight change because we think it's chaos, but most change is rhythm we haven't learned to dance to yet." His words gathered like dusk around us, soft, sure, inevitable. And I finally understood what he had been teaching me all along. Stability isn't something you guard. It's something you grow, like balance in motion. You don't learn it once, you practice it every day. I met a woman in Seattle who calls her morning routine her daily tune-up. "Every morning before I check emails," she said, "I ask myself, what needs a tiny adjustment today? My mind, my body, or my attitude?" Some days it's a walk. Some days a hard conversation she'd been avoiding. Some days it's simply forgiving herself for not being perfect. "I used to think consistency meant never changing," she told me. "Now I think it means staying in touch with myself." That's the modern version of the watchmaker's wisdom. Listen, before you adjust. A young firefighter in California echoed that idea. "We're trained to adapt by the minute," he said. "Wind shifts, flames turn, everything changes. The only way to stay steady is to check in with each other." He grinned. "We don't ask, 'Are you okay?' We ask, 'You good on rhythm?'" What a phrase. You good on rhythm? That's what every one of us should ask when life changes too fast. Because when you lose rhythm, you don't need to start over. You just need to listen again. The watchmaker once told me, "A clock that never drifts is a dead clock. Movement is life. Adjustment is how we stay alive." Maybe that's why the world keeps changing, to remind us that movement is proof of being. One morning on that mountain porch, the watchmaker handed me a pocket watch. "It's for you," he said. The case was scratched, the glass slightly clouded, but inside, the movement was flawless. "Did you make this one?" I asked. "No," he smiled. "It belonged to my father." He kept it running by listening to it every Sunday. I figured it should go to someone who still listens. I carry that watch to this day. I wind it once a week, not to keep perfect time, but to remember that steadiness is a relationship between what moves outside and what listens inside. Every tick is a reminder you can be in motion and still be grounded. So before you finish listening today, let me leave you with a few reflections. Not rules, not demands, just gentle markers you can carry into a noisy world. First, life will always move. That's not the problem. The problem is forgetting that you can move with it. You can sway, breathe, and find your rhythm inside the storm. Second, stability isn't an accident. It's built from small, repeated choices, your circles, your rituals, your quiet acknowledgments of motion. These are the unseen bricks that hold a steady life together. Third, peace doesn't mean stillness. Stillness can be rigid. Peace has motion in it. Peace knows when to pause, when to sway, and when to begin again. Practice these day after day, and the world won't feel so heavy. It'll still be busy, yes, but your heart will beat at its own pace. And that, my friend, is enough. The last time I saw the watchmaker, the sun was sliding behind the ridge, painting the valley gold. We stood in silence for a long while, listening to the wind move through the trees like an old, patient song. "People think time passes," he said at last. "But really, it unfolds, like a story that waits for you to keep reading." He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder and added, "The trick is not to hold on to the page. It's to read it slowly enough to understand it." So take a breath. Adjust your pace. Notice where your gears are grinding and give them oil, compassion, forgiveness, attention. You don't have to match the speed of the world. You only have to find your rhythm within it. Tomorrow morning, when you wake and hear the hum of your own day beginning, before you check your phone, before you chase the clock, pause. Listen. That faint, steady sound in the background? That's life, keeping time with you. And if you can learn to listen to it, not control it, not rush it, just listen, you'll discover something beautiful. You'll realize you've already become what you were chasing all along. Steady, alive, and quietly in sync with the moving world. Because steadiness was never about standing still. It was about finding grace in motion. And sometimes the most powerful sound isn't the ticking of the clock, but the silence between its beats, that small breath of peace where time itself pauses just long enough for you to feel fully alive. Lay a hand on your heart. Feel its rhythm. Let it remind you, you've been keeping time all along, not perfectly, but patiently. That's what the watchmaker gave me, not just a clock, but a way to live, to listen, to breathe, to trust the rhythm of life itself. And that's what I wish for you, to be steady, to be alive, and to walk gently, beautifully in tune with the moving world.